Hey everybody, Vicarious Viking here with another Rebirth update. Today we're going to be taking a look at some of the recently released co-op gameplay footage from Edmund and Danielle. They do a challenge run in this. It's called the Head Trauma Challenge. As you can probably guess from the name, this starts Isaac with a number of pretty hard, solid items jammed inside of his cranium. Let's talk about these items. There's only one from the original game in this challenge, and that's Small Rock, which does presumably the same thing that it did in the original game, which is a small damage up and a tears up, as well as a small speed down. You also start with Tiny Planet, which is a new item. This raises your range very high. It adds spectral tears, and it changes how your tears move. They now orbit around you. And another new item is called the Iron Bar. This adds concussive damage, which is a new status that confuses enemies, which we'll talk about in just a moment. And the last item that you start with in this challenge run is Soy Milk, which is not, you know, a large gray object jammed inside of your head, but it does increase your fire rate very, very high, but it also gives your tears very low damage, and it makes them visually very small as well. Some of these items are a little hard to make out on Isaac, and I'm not sure if that's because it's still in early development or if it's just because there are a bunch of large gray objects jammed right inside of his head. You can see Tiny Planet clearly, and there is something behind it, either Small Rock or the new Iron Bar. And then Soy Milk is represented by that yellowish stain around Isaac's lips. So Edmund's going to spawn in here with one of the randomly generated co-op babies. He's going to take a heart container from Danielle for himself, so you'll see that she only has 2 heart containers now and he has 1. And he gets the troll baby, which is actually a baby that randomly spawns 1 to 2 troll bombs every minute or 2. Here's the first room with enemies in it, and you can see all of the passive items working together to create just this crazy amount of really tiny low damage tears circling all around the player. You'll notice some of these tears are a dark gray in color. That's because they have the concussive status effect applied to them, and when these tears hit the enemies, that's going to confuse them. And then you'll notice that they have this kind of like yellow sparkle, like some bubbles and stars above their head, and they seem to lose all awareness of the player and just kind of like wander around aimlessly, making them a much easier target to kill. The next thing we get to see in this video is more of the analog controls. This is going to allow you to walk and move at different speeds. It's going to be very useful for navigating around spikes and probably other things as well, just basically anything that requires very precise movements, which a lot of stuff in Isaac does. Obviously this is not going to work with the keyboard. Here we have a new room layout and a moving spike block. Now, moving spike blocks are nothing new in the binding of Isaac, but burgundy ones that hug the outer edges of rock formations are. Here we have a new enemy. This pink fly was referred to as a ring fly by Edmund, and they come at you in a different pattern, presumably a circular one as evidenced by the video on screen. So in this room we have a new enemy in Rebirth that was recently revealed called the ringworm. What's interesting about this room is you'll notice before that enemy dies, a lot of blood appears on the ground, and you might be wondering what that's coming from. If you look really closely, you can see a lot of little fruit flies, and when they get hit by your tears, they explode in blood, and then they spiral down to the ground and die, which I probably don't have to tell you is really cool. Alright, so this room is pretty standard stuff. They're just killing a couple of flies, but you'll notice in a moment here, Troll Baby spawns 2 troll bombs, which is kind of nuts. So next up, they check out the secret room, which is very cool and atmospheric looking, and contains the little battery, which if you don't know is a new rare consumable pickup that gives you a full charge on your spacebar item, provided that you actually have one. If not, you just can't pick it up apparently. Also, fire does now create dynamic light, and it's a little subtle, but you can see the difference each time a fire gets put out, and I really like the way it darkens very smoothly. But just to give you a quick before and after, the brightness goes from this to this, from this to this, from this to this, from this to this, from this. Notice when they leave the secret room, the hole in the wall actually stays there as opposed to sealing up like it did in the original game, which is great, and I always wondered why they didn't do that in the original game because it just kind of made sense to me. Alright, so after an agonizing wait from Danielle in the video, we finally get to see what the new shop looks like, but not before Edmund blows himself up with his own troll bomb. So here's the new shop. It's interesting. It's a little barren looking, as you can see, but I really like the walls. They're all lined with shelves, even though they only seem to contain a couple of coins and like some books or something. But you'll notice that there's no expensive items for sale. There's only a 5-cent key and a 5-cent spirit heart. I think that has something to do with the donation machine in the top left. The way the donation machine works is you can donate money to it over multiple playthroughs. You'll notice it started out at 5 in this video, even though this is the first shop this playthrough. So as you donate to it, the coin counter on it gets higher, and you unlock new items and can increase the chance for more items to be available in the shop the higher this counter gets. So even though the counter is low right now, there's still a chance that 4 or 5 items could be available in the shop. It's just more likely that that many items will be available once you get that counter higher, as far as my understanding goes of the donation machine anyway. So next up, Danielle enters the boss room, and she's up against Dingle, so we can assume that Dingle is a basement boss. We have seen this guy before in GIFs, never actually in video, but he does look pretty tough, and Danielle did not seem happy at all to be having to fight this guy.
Oh, fuck this.
He seems to have 3 different attacks. The 3-way spread shot, similar to Greed. He can charge at you, similar to Gertie Jr., and he can spawn littler enemies. I believe the littler enemies are called dips, and it looks like he can whistle out 1 or 2 at a time. Also, I did notice that Dingle seems to be completely unaffected by concussive shots. He gets hit by a number of them, and even though the little dips are getting confused, he doesn't seem to be at all. So Danielle bites it here in a second, and it's a little hard to see because of the map and stuff, but when Isaac dies, a little ghost Isaac actually flies out of him. And lastly, we get a look at the game over screen, and that's gonna do it for this video, guys. I want to thank you very much for watching. Big thanks to Salavander and Natho, which are the two guys that are working on the music for the Community Remix mod, which is the music that you actually heard in this video. If you'd like to hear more of it, there's some links in the description, or just play the mod itself, because it's totally awesome. Also, you can check out bindingofisaac.com to get updates straight from the developers, Edmund or Tyrone. They update every single Monday. So yeah, once again, thanks for watching. My name's Vicarious Viking. You can see more Rebirth updates on my channel, and subscribe to be notified of when I come up with new videos. You guys have a great day, and I will see you later.